Hi gang, Rob here. It is the afternoon of August 2017. I have a little from the sharpening bench video for you guys today, and it's on this knife. Check out this beauty. Look at that super slicey, super pointy blade. This sunburst pattern milled titanium handle. Isn't she a beauty? What is it? Well, let's take a look at the proprietary pivot and maybe we can start to shed some light on what it is. Yeah. That logo is Grimsmo Knives. The brothers Grimsmo, John and Erik from Ontario, Canada. The model, I believe just the second model for the Grimsmos, is the Rask. R-A-S-K. As you can tell by the beautiful stamping in the blade, this blade is fashioned of RWL 34 steel, and this is Rask number 009er. Yeah, this one comes to us from my viewer, subscriber, friend from the Miami, Florida area, I believe, Sid. Sid is a rather eclectic collector. He collects rare and low number serialized production knives and customs. He likes those single digit serial number knives. You guys will remember from a previous From the Sharpening Bench video and last week's sale, a red Benchmade 940 that I believe is number 6 of 50. That was Sid's knife that he has since passed on. This also belongs to Sid. This is not for sale. This one I actually sharpened for Sid, and he has kind of interesting sharpening taste. I'm going to try to get you a shot of the edge. You're going to look at that and go, well, Rob, that doesn't even look like your edge. Well, it is. This Rask, believe it or not, for Sid is a user, even with its $700 or so price tag and secondary market value well into triple digits. It's a user. So Sid wanted to send it to me to have me do a video on it, and he used the heck out of it. But what he requested on the edge was something that not only replicated the factory angle from Grimsmo, but also the finish. So what you see here is a secondary bevel finished just to 400 grit on the Edge Pro, and then a tiny micro bevel that is finished to 0.5 micron on the strops. Very much like what Grimsmo does from the factory. I assume they use a belt grinder to establish the secondary bevel, and then probably a cloth wheel to polish the apex. So that's kind of what we got. I think it came out kind of sharp too. Let's see, while I'm dispensing a piece of phone book paper, talk a little bit about that steel. That is from France, and it is the French equivalent of CPM 154. 154 CM or ATS 34 formulation in powdered metal technology. So it ought to be pretty slicey. And it is. Push cuts phone book paper pretty quietly. So I think you're going to be happy with that, Sid. So let's talk about the knife. Well, you know, these From the Sharpening Bench videos are kind of mini reviews. And I know what you're thinking. It's not American made, it's Canadian. Just fine with me, by the way. So I'm probably not going to like it. It's a ball bearing frame lock flipper. So I'm probably not going to like it. Yeah, and on their website, the Grimsmo brothers have for sale, for those of you stupid enough to buy them, fidget spinners for triple-digit money. Did I say triple-digit value a while ago? I meant four-figure value. These are doing well over $1,000 on the secondary market. Anyway, $150 buys you a Grimsmo spinner. So from what we know about the mechanism, the construction of the knife, and the bent of the Grimsmos to cash in on the the fidgeting addiction of morons with more money than brains, you think I probably wouldn't like this knife, don't you? Well, I kind of didn't like their first knife, the Norseman. I thought the blade shape was a little goofy. I don't like blades with horizontal ridges, even vertical ridges, in the cutting path on the face of the blade. I like knives that cut. I didn't like the Norseman. This knife, though, despite their previous model, despite their other stuff, even with ball bearings and a flipper, I love this knife. I love it. What we got here is 1/8 inch stock in RWL 34. It sharpens beautifully, as you already saw. A nice kind of drop point blade, very reminiscent. It's kind of a Sebenza blade shape. A little different execution going on back here, but a super practical and aesthetically pleasing blade style. The handle shape is just absolute money. It is superb in hand, in any grip. 3D machine scales, just contoured slightly. I think you can see that. Did I mention that milled sunburst pattern? And how about this brilliant bronze anodizing? Fully milled titanium pocket clip. It actually works. Not super high tension, and a nice big ramp coming to that retention point. Over travel stop that's attached from the inside. Not too fond of seeing the end of that screw through the lock bar, but it works. And then just a T8 Torx to access your pivot. Okay. The lock bar end appears to be carbidized. It's got just almost a Sebenza-like stick, kind of that hydraulic feeling lock stick that just lets you know it's there. And that might be a little higher level of stick than it was when I got it. Sid expressed to me that he felt like the lock bar wasn't engaging far enough, and it actually failed on him in use. So I put a little more tension on the lock bar. Still superb action. So along with that 3.5 inch blade comes a 4.6 inch long handle and a handle thickness of right at 400 thousandths. Does this handle color, handle material, stonewashed blade finish, blade shape, and size remind you of anything? Guys, does it remind you of anything at all? It does me. There it is, next to the Benchmade Anthem. Those of you who follow my Instagram know that this knife is mine. A little different finish on the bronze titanium, different milling pattern, but both, kind of the same level of detail. Both sporting that fully milled titanium pocket clip. Blade shapes, I think, rather similar, wouldn't you say? Of course, the base of the edge executed a little better on the Anthem. By the way, an integral handle with no relief pockets. Same size knife, a little thicker, 425 thousandths versus 400. But the Anthem weighs in at 3.8 ounces, and the Grimsmo Rask 3.2. Let's look, since we're talking about weight, at a few pictures of the inside of the knife. And I want you to pay special attention to the level of fit and finish on the parts of the knife that you don't see every day. Also, take a look at the rather large diameter poly washer that houses some ceramic ball bearings. And if you can make it out, check out the radial milling pattern in the bearing pockets in the handle. I think that's kind of interesting. You'll see that they're showing no wear. So take a look, guys. Here are the internals of the knife, just so you can see, what your $700 or so is getting you in the areas you don't see. Take a look. So a couple interesting things, I think. There are 2 internal stop pins in this knife. I don't know if you noticed that looking at the frame slabs, but one for the open position, one for closed, I suppose. One interesting piece of operational geometry, I want you to look at how little you have to move the blade to bump into the detent ball. That's it. That's it. What does that mean? It means the knife closes easily. When the blade hits your thumb, it's well past the detent. No double clutching. No banging the detent ball into the shoulder of the blade tang. Very, very nicely done. Just a super highly refined, super well-made knife. There are no fit and finish issues on this knife. Bronze titanium shouldered hourglass shaped standoffs. Only disassembly tool you need is a T8 Torx. Flipping action has a couple, let's call them sorry efforts at jimping. 2 cuts and they're very rounded. They offer no purchase at all. So, if you're light switching this, just focus on keeping your finger flat to the frame as you sweep back, and you're not ever going to miss it. Does it light switch? It ought to, by looking at where the flipper is in relation to the pivot. It does. Detent is not so strong that it locks the knife closed, even with finger on lock bar. That is a big pet peeve of mine. A ball bearing flipper that achieves great flipping action with a detent that has, one entire hemisphere of the detent ball protruding from the lock bar means you're going to have a very abrupt detent action. And if you're carrying a tactical knife that happens to be a ball bearing flipper, a tactical knife, something you're going to use to defend your life with, and it has that issue, you grab it with a death grip, you're just not going to get it open. Zero tolerance. And even some late model hinderers, you need to keep that in mind, especially hinderer. A knife that I can't open when I'm gripping it tightly in a high stress situation is no knife at all. Not the case with this one. It is just luxurious, elegant. It has no strange characteristics at all. It just absolutely does what it's designed to do all the time, the same way, with a very high level of quality. Love this knife. Man, look the way that thing plays with the light. One minor peeve I have with this, I thought I was having smears after I sharpened it and cleaned it that I couldn't get out. And upon further examination, look right here. There's actually a faint texture, milling pattern underneath that stonewash that I don't know if it was a mistake or something they did on purpose, but it appears to be a mistake. I think you can pick up what I'm talking about. There's sort of a narrow stem that goes horizontal in the knife blade, and then it sort of blooms at the end, fans out. That is not a smear. That is quote unquote texture in the blade, and it's on both sides. There it is. To me, it makes the blade look dirty. It doesn't really add anything to the knife. You can't feel it. Sort of like ghost flames in a paint job, but not that purposeful. I wish they would just, grind it to a high microfinish and stonewash it, rather than trying to, follow up on what was a jacked up blade finish in the Norseman with something less offensive. It appears what they've done. But other than that, the knife's absolutely gorgeous, and I like it in this market that a custom maker, especially a custom maker that is brand new, very young, gained a high level of notoriety in social media, and sort of came out of nowhere. Most of those makers are flashes in the pan, and they make ridiculous knives. Not so with John and Erik Grimsmo. They're learning. Their first effort was pretty good with some issues that are, kind of subjective. This thing is just pure pocket knife. And it's pure pocket knife done to an extreme level of precision with great materials. Very, very nice. What a neat pair. And very similar knives. Obviously a production knife, $425, worth every penny. And then a custom knife. Same philosophy of use, same carryability, roughly the same materials. A little different execution in lock and pivot mechanism, but both similar. And one's a great production knife, one's a great custom knife. Thought you guys would like to see this before it heads home to sunny, maybe even rainy, Florida. Sid, thank you for sending it along. It's coming home to Papa today. That's all for this one, my friends. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and Sid's Grimsmo Rask are sharp.